welcome. Welcome to Aloha United We Stand. I'm Marianne Sasaki. I'm filling in for Jay Fidel today. And we're very lucky, we're very honored to have the T-Shirt Theater with us. And I'll introduce our guests and we'll talk a little bit about what they do and their focus on women's issues, which, as you all know, makes me a very happy camper. So to my left, I have George Kahn. He's the executive director of the T-Shirt Theater. And the T-Shirt Theater is a flagship for the Alliance for Drama Education. To his left is Gail Fujita. She's on the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women, a committee person, is that right? Would that be right? And almost directly across from me is Jonah Moananu, musical director of, proud of myself, musical director of the T-Shirt Theater. Well, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you came. I'm really glad.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the T-Shirt Theater, and then we'll talk about how the Women's Commission's working with the T-Shirt Theater. So tell me, what was its inception? What's its mission? What do you guys do?
We go way back.
Really?
Yes.
To 2012?
To 1980.
Wow, that really is way back.
Way back. So, my partner Walt Delaney and I came to do a Midsummer Night's Dream workshop at Farrington High School.
Oh, okay.
So,
such a great play.
Things were going really great. We had gifted and talented students. But the language arts chairperson came in and observed, and she said, you know, I like what you're doing with drama, but I love what you're doing with audience manners. Because here at Farrington, we have 1,200-seat auditorium, and we can't have assemblies because the kids are too rowdy.
Wow.
Are you able to help us?
And were you?
Of course, we sure could. But she provided the prescription. She said, here's what you do. Work with Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet would be great. Work for 4 days in the classroom with the kids working on monologues. Then on the 5th day, take them all into the auditorium, just their class, and have them stand in the solo spotlight. Butts off. What light through yonder window breaks?
That's terrific.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if you do that systematically, because she, as an English department chairperson, said, I can give you the entire incoming class, which was 25 sections of freshmen.
Wow.
So 4 years later, everybody in the school
Had done it.
They'd done it. They had earned their empathy.
Wow, and well, I can see that experience would be such a dramatic experience that it would really impact you greatly. I could see why. That's a great idea, terrific idea. Do you always use Shakespeare?
We'll always do Shakespeare. And we're still doing Romeo and Juliet. In fact, we just finished. Yeah, Jonah?
Oh, good.
Yeah. We worked with this year's incoming freshmen, as we do with, as I've helped out for the past 16 school years.
And how, like, what kind of musical accompaniment is there? I mean, because obviously Romeo and Juliet's a play, but how does the music play into it?
Well, we focus on monologues with the Romeo and Juliet stuff. So each kid gets a small part. We have a few pieces that they perform as an ensemble.
Oh.
So everyone kind of reaching toward the same goal of performance at the end really builds empathy in the audience, but focusing on communication skills, getting
cohesion,
into the literature a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's really good fun.
Well, that's terrific. That's terrific. And now I understand that the T-Shirt Theater has a special relationship with the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women. And Gail, I'd like to ask you, tell me a little bit about the commission and what your direction is, and what did you do with the T-Shirt Theater?
Well, you know, we are a newly reenacted committee, and so the mayor has put together this committee, and it's composed of education folks in labor, federal folks. I mean, some doctors and lawyers.
Oh, good, lawyers.
You know, so
represented.
A lot of different people, and it nurtures the diversity of the women in Hawaii, and it addresses issues and concerns for those women. So we've got 3 projects that we have really looked at this year. And the first was these PSAs that the T-Shirt Theater put together for us. The second was...
Well, tell me a little bit about the PSAs before you go into the second project. What was the content of the PSAs? What did they try to do? Who was in them? What was their audience?
Well, we loved it because it was the kids putting on.
They did.
Yeah,
that's terrific.
And they were terrific, and they did a great job. And so we had several topics that we could select from, and we selected 3 topics. And I'll let George talk about them because he's much better at it than I am.
Okay. I know you said body image.
Body image.
Mhm.
So we had to come up with like a metaphor, because you only have 30 seconds, right?
Right.
Actually 25 seconds.
Right.
So we came up, the girls came up with the idea of the image of a mirror,
Oh,
you know, and every woman has a special relationship to the mirror.
we certainly do, I
Right,
must say.
yes, and so we built that around 3 girls, talk through their feelings about mirrors. And
Oh.
that's the whole thing about body image, through the mirror. And coming up with the idea that despite what feedback I'm getting or how I might not like this particular thing, I am beautiful. I know that I'm beautiful.
Right. You have to love. You have to
Yes,
love what you see. Love
exactly.
what you see. That's the most important person in the world, really.
Yes. And then the second one was consent, you know, and that's becoming really highlighted now as, you know, women and their bodies and the sanctity of themselves is really coming to the fore.
We
you
did a
know.
number of shows. It was Sexual Abuse
Yeah,
Awareness
yes,
Month. We
yes,
did a number of
exactly.
shows about what consent is. I mean, I can't believe it's been so long and it's still such a complicated. I mean, people don't understand. It's really very simple. You really have to respect the person you're with, you know.
But to say verbally, to ask permission is new for a lot of our
Well,
youngsters.
that's true.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's a kind of uncomfortable thing, I think, when you're a kid and you're just sort of going out with girls or boys and you don't even know how to be really, you know. So, but that's terrific. So consent, and the last?
The last one was a Kupuna scene with an elderly woman, and you had just mentioned that your mom even got the phone call from the IRS?
Oh, yes.
A fake
yes.
IRS guy?
She was terrified.
Yes.
She got a call from the IRS, and the IRS said, you owe many thousands of dollars. And she, like my mother, trust me, never. So, but she was crying, and they said they were the FBI and they would come to her house. So she
Yes.
was really terrified. I must say that I love the senior citizens of Hawaii. They're the most energetic, dynamic senior citizens. They're the greatest. I think it's terrific. I don't know whether it's the weather or the family, relationships, but they're really, really out there in force, and they're going and they're doing, and it's absolutely terrific. It's a delightful change from New York, where everybody seems to be young or working and in a hurry and just, you know. So what was the second project, Gail? So that was the first project.
That was the first. And then the second was we sponsored an HPV film.
Oh,
And it's because every year 250,000 women die.
well, tell everybody what
From-
HPV is.
It's a human papilloma virus.
Right.
And so this is a film called Someone You Love, which explores HPV's relationship to cervical cancer.
Right.
And it's the second leading cause of death of women.
Wow.
And it's really important because in the Pacific, there are a lot of women that aren't, there is a vaccine now,
right.
but in the Pacific, they've never had that vaccine. It's only in the last 1 or 2 years.
Oh, really?
And so you have the largest percentage of young women dying from this.
Oh, that's terrible.
So it was a great film that we were able to sponsor.
It's a very hard campaign, I think, to get people to accept the inoculation, because people twist it around and indicate that there's something implicit, like a permission to have sex. Everybody's got to get it. I mean, it's not a morality issue at all. It's a scientific issue. But I know the little I know about it. I know that there's been fight back against it, and it's silly, because it would save so many lives. You know, it's just very hard issue.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We think that this vaccine, cure 90%
Yeah.
of the women, of the 250,000 people a year that die from it.
Right, but you have to get it. So And early. I mean, they
And early.
advocated early. I'm thinking 12 or 13, but I don't know if I'm right.
Exactly.
Okay,
You're
yeah.
exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because I have a friend who has a son in that age group, and we were talking about that. So, and what was the third project?
So the third project is CEDA, and CEDA, it stands for 1979 legislation passed by the UN, United Nations General Assembly. It stands for Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women.
Oh, that's terrific.
And we're one of very, very few cities that have adopted it. So our committee has gone to the law school and hired people, both graduates and law students, to go through all the legislation and find those issues.
Make sure there's no
Right.
discriminatory language or
Exactly.
discriminate impact, perhaps, or something. Wow, I'm proud to say that I'm a citizen of Honolulu. Then, if that's our law, you know.
Well, it's great because we were so lucky. The mayor requested and the council put money in the budget for us to do this kind of work. So we've been very happily spending that money.
Good. It's incredibly important work. I mean, it's you know, I love Honolulu. It's incredibly diverse, and I think it's a very tolerant place. And a little, you know, underscoring the equality of women. I mean, I think there's still a little disparity. I'm a professional. I'll be honest and say I think there's still a little disparity. And so all the education and change we can get with respect to neutral language and you know it's terrific. It's what we need, really. Yeah.
Well, and most of these other cities actually, and no states have adopted it.
Right.
So a couple of countries, but not the United States. And we are the first city to actually go through all these regulations.
It really is very pride-inducing, I must say. I would say thanks to the mayor and thanks to the commission because for an interest in this subject that you know it's very difficult to work up interest in it. People are like, oh, everybody's equal, it doesn't matter, and you know, and so I really appreciate your work here. It's important work.
It's so supported by so many people. It's just been wonderful.
It's true. Well, because it's
yeah,
great.
yeah, it's exciting
great.
to
Yeah,
sit
it
on
is
this
exciting.
committee. Yeah.
I'm going to just take a quick break right now, and then we'll come back and we'll talk to Jonah, and we'll hear about music, and I have a little surprise for you about him.
Hello, my name is Crystal Kwok, and I'm a newbie here in Hawaii from Hong Kong, and I really want you to get to know me. And if you're interested in some sensitive topics about women, things that provoke you to say, hey, I want to say something about that. The conversation about private parts, geez, I have so many things I want to share with you. I want things to put on the table that will incite you to think about what it is to be a woman and just be there and tune in to who you are. So please join me. My show is on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock. Sometimes it's going to be sexual, sometimes it's going to be dirty fun, sometimes there's going to be some hardcore social issues that involve us. So I really, really think it's an important time nowadays to bring everything like that together. And I hope you come in and join me and to embrace this deep but fun and entertaining discussions about women.
Hi, you're watching Aloha We Stand. I'm Marianne Sasaki, filling in for Jay Fidel. We're on Fridays between 12 and 1 on thinktechhawaii.com. I'm so glad you could join us today. We're with a group from the T-Shirt Theater. Gail is from the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women, and we're talking about techniques to improve everybody's situation, and particularly young women. So I understand, Jonah, that you've been involved with the Honolulu Theater for Youth. And so could you tell me about that?
Yes, so HTY and the Sex Abuse Treatment Center got together, and we've been doing these respect rallies at Tenny Theater, where HTY's offices are. And we bring kids together, and they do artist workshops, and we kind of have this conversation of what respect is in relationships. The educational side, aside from just the rally, which is like the super fun stuff,
Right.
We get a chance to go to different high schools all across the state. We did over 25 schools, 1,500 students about.
Oh, you reached a lot of people. That's
A lot of
great.
kids, and just
Well, they're people too.
right.
I think. My boss wouldn't think so. He has 2 teenagers, but I'm advocating for you kids.
Younger people.
Yes. Are you?
Our part in that, Jonah took a PowerPoint to the schools. The cast of the PowerPoint were our T-shirt theater kids.
Oh, really?
Right. So
Oh,
the
so-
respect presentation involved a PowerPoint that took the kids through a conversation between 2 teenagers that had an incident. And it's all based on actual events, and the T-shirt kids help be the media and the voice actors in the whole presentation also.
What a great model.
So there was slides, there were audio clips, text messages.
Oh, that's how to get to the kids. Text
Right,
messages,
yes,
definitely.
And when Jonah went into the classroom, sometimes there would be a placard, and students from the class would stand up as that character
Oh, really?
and read the lines.
Oh, that's terrific. So that's really a participatory experience. You really are invested in
Yes, more than if just a passive audience.
Sure, of course. I mean, if you're active, it's you're doing it. You're not. It's not mediated by the idea of what theater or presentation or so on. So how did you get involved, Jonah? How did you get involved?
Well, I've been with T-shirt theater for quite some time.
Oh, have
now.
you?
He began as a T-shirt theater student when you're in 9th grade.
Did you
Ninth
really?
grade, yes.
Wow.
Through the same program that George them started in the 80s is something I do now. I help teach. So being involved with T-shirt, getting to meet HTY and the SATC folks from hosting the rally. This was the first year I had a chance to actually take the conversation on tour, and we hosted it this year also.
Jonah's a professional MC, so a lot of different kinds of events. He's the man.
I'm not surprised because when I walked into the studio today, I was like, boy, I like his look. He must do something in the arts. So yeah, that's terrific. So I'm sure that your experience with T-shirt theater led to your ability to be an MC, right?
Definitely. Teaching as an artist and being in T-shirt theater were definitely helpful going into other things like American Idol.
Right. Well, I was just going to ask about that, but I was going to say you're the musical director. So what's your instrument or instruments?
My instrument, I would have to say, is my voice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say I'm classically hip hop trained.
Oh, terrific.
It's not a real thing yet. I'm still.
And, keep saying it. We'll spread it. Classically hip hop trained.
What does that?
What does that mean? What does that mean to you, anyway?
Well, it means hip hop as a culture was something I got into also through high school. But T-shirt theater taught me how to keep safe spaces. So being part of the hip hop community, we have these things called ciphers where people will dance and people will rap and you kind of just bounce off each other.
Sure.
It's these huge musical conversations. And T-shirt has helped me to keep those kind of spaces safe so people can come and start to grow. And that nurturing nature from teaching has helped me to apply that into the hip hop community as well.
That's
He-
interesting.
Had a group that met informally every Sunday.
I was going to ask, how did you?
Every Sunday,
Every
yes.
Sunday under the overpass by the,
Under the overpass.
skating rink.
By Ice Palace in Salt Lake. There's a parking lot on the bridge. We would go every
No,
Sunday.
it's not. It's like not official. It's not publicized,
No,
but everybody knows.
Right.
They
It's
show up.
Community.
And Jonah held the space. That's
Wow.
so that people felt safe to be able to do their thing. And when he pulled out after 3 years,
Yeah.
it slowly started to go.
Dissipated. You were
go
the
away.
glue.
He
of
was the glue.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you were still doing it because I totally take a ride over there. I would love to see that. I think
Those were
that's-
fun times, yeah.
That's terrific. I mean, I was going to ask whether they were spontaneous or planned. I know sometimes they're spontaneous, but it's such a great thing to watch. I mean, you so get into it. You cheer on people that get into it. It's
yes.
really very exciting, So yeah, too bad you can't do that again. But I guess you're going to more toward the professional MC.
Different stuff. Yeah, trying to take the same tools that I got from rapping and what the hip hop culture really did for me as I started to grow older was teach me how to name my values differently. You know,
Right.
we kind of, our version of art is real explosive and
Right.
doesn't hang on walls for long. It's just, you know,
Right.
really explosive.
It's dynamic.
So being able to do that and navigate through things and still be a part of teaching, it's just a different language.
You must be so proud to have.
I am
I mean,
very
I'm sure you
proud.
have many students that have gone on to do interesting things, and I mean, you probably see them in the.
Well, curiously, one of my students runs his own theater company in LA. It's
Oh,
called
wow.
Tiera, T-E-A-D-A, Tiera.
Theater.
Like
Okay.
a local person would say, theater.
Right.
Tiera.
Oh, that's great.
So he has come back, and he's working with Jonah and me on a Micronesian project.
Oh, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Well, you know, the Micronesian people are the most recent immigrants to Hawaii. And as I don't know if
I
you
did not
understand-
know that. No, I'm
Oh,
very
okay,
ignorant.
so every group that comes gets smashed.
Sure. Well,
You know?
that's like New York is like that with different
So
waves of
when the
immigration.
Japanese came, when the Filipinos came, and they get pushed down not only by the local people, but by their own folks who have come a little earlier than them.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what's different about the folks in the Micronesian community is they're having a lot of issues with assimilation because their culture is so strong and not very well understood. So that's our mission. We're trying to use theater to bring some light to this kind of marginalized community.
Yeah, you want that extra bit of culture. You want to have
Yes.
people exposed that. You don't want them to assimilate and acculturate completely. You want them to retain what's important
Because
and
that's
bring it
what
to
the magic
table.
is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's just, you know, people always say to me, "Oh, you moved from New York to Honolulu. It's like must be 180 degrees different." It's not, because it's so diverse, and we all have to live together and understand each other's, you know, values and needs and wants. And I find Honolulu very similar, and that's why I love it. I mean, because it feels, you know, international. It doesn't feel like a small city, you know. So, and obviously, you know, retaining the culture of someplace like Micronesia is like super important, you know. So that's good. So, like, when would you say the Micronesian immigration? When did it really begin here? You said it's the newest immigration.
Well, it's been happening for years, actually. Do either of you have a date?
Yeah, you know, it was really when the laws changed and they were able to come
Right.
into the United States. And so it was very, very shortly after the first tranche of, you know, and in the 80s, that's when they were able to freely come in. And they've been coming in since that time. And they are, as George mentioned, one of the poorer groups. And
Are Micronesians from the Marshall Islands? Is that?
That's
No,
only one of the
okay.
communities. So there's Palauans, there's Marshallese, there's Chukis.
Okay.
And
I have so much to learn.
Part of the challenge is they speak different languages
yes,
That's a challenge.
on each island.
That's a challenge.
So they're not, although, you know, what's troubling is they get put into this basket called Micronesia.
Right.
But there is no basket called Micronesia.
Right.
It's a geographic designation.
Right. Right.
You know?
Right.
So technically, if you asked, are you Micronesian? They could say, no, I'm Marshallese.
Right.
Because
right.
I'm come from the Marshall
Right.
Islands.
Yeah, China's a little similar. I know there's, you know, people from Fujian province and from Shanghai, and they're a little different and speak differently, but I guess they're a little more cohesive. These seem to be individual cultures.
Very, very different. And
Small islands.
a lot of times the language is not written down. It's all oral.
See, that's something that the dominant culture has to learn about and understand, because that is something, you know, a conservative person would be, what? No written language? What? These people can't be very intelligent. You know, I mean, that's the response of somebody that's not educated.
And the intelligence has to do with food gathering a lot of times, which when they come here, it's supermarkets.
Right,
So
right.
how difficult is that to negotiate?
Right, it is, and I'm sure that the children are in two worlds. They're in the world of the United States and in the world of Micronesia, and serve as a conduit for their parents often. So there's lots of issues in community, that's kind of community. So there's a lot to be done, I imagine.
Yes. We're just now scratching the surface as we're meeting with different groups. But the theater is a great device because it's about sharing stories.
Thank
Because
you.
that's the access point, right?
Yes. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And once again, this is Aloha We Stand with Marianne Sasaki. I'm not Jay Fidel. I have to remember that. We'll be back in a minute.
Aloha, I'm Kaui Lucas, host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here on Think Tech Hawaii every Friday at 3 p.m. We address issues of importance for those of us who live here on the most isolated landmass on the planet. Please come join me Fridays at 3 p.m. Mahalo.
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, exploring the world we live in, recognizing the changes around us, and looking into the future of our lives together in these islands. Great content for Hawaii from Think Tech.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Hi, welcome back. We were having a spirited discussion during the break, and which I think you might be interested in, so we're going to bring it also to you, about the Marshall Islands and environmental concerns with respect to the Marshall Islands and what the Women's Commission is doing. Tell me about that. I find that fascinating.
What we're looking at is, well, actually, this is not part of the Women's
Okay.
Committee, but it's, I actually, in my real job, I represent a grants
Okay.
agency, and we have looked at how to integrate and culturally serve the women in Micronesia. And they all put together their own patterns,
Right.
and they're fabulous sewers.
Right.
And there's a need for sewers.
Oh,
in
there's
this state.
absolutely a need for sewers. Yeah,
And-
it's an art that's,
And so we are putting together these programs in this state to take these women who are so accomplished and to provide them with jobs and entry into jobs.
right.
And I think it's also because this group of women have, the culture really is not to put yourself forward.
Right.
It's not to speak up. I
Right.
mean, so when you start training, you've got to start from the very basic things like, stand up, tell us what your name is.
I
And
understand that.
I mean,
It's-
it's really
yeah,
basic.
yeah,
It's basic
yeah.
stuff, but
Yes.
it's fabulous. It's so fabulous to work in this
Oh,
area.
it's so important. That's something interesting about, my husband is from Hawaii, and he told me, when you come to Hawaii, you're going to be very loud, and people aren't aggressive, and they don't, speak their mind, and you have to be careful of, mind your P's and Q's. And and I've been pretty good, but being able to ask for the things you want, particularly if you're a woman, being able to stand up and saying, I am a person and I need this, I want this, or I have this dream for my future, I have this dream for myself, for my children, that's so important. And even at the Hawaii Women's Law meetings, we do training to be able to speak up for ourselves and stand up. And these are lawyers, these are trained professionals.
Yeah.
So it's deeply ingrained in our culture that people don't ask, So
And about that, you can rehearse
yes,
to get better.
You
That's
can.
our mission, rehearse for life.
yes. Well, that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that it's a run through, so that you'll know what to do. Certainly, it would be great when asking for a raise for me to
Yes.
practice in the mirror and give all my reasons and not be
To not
stumbling.
stumble, right.
Yeah, exactly. And because you feel so guilty, as women. I mean, I don't know about you, but you feel like, oh, I want to be very good, and I don't want to make any waves, and I want to just do my best work and people will notice, but it's not exactly like that. You have to advocate for yourself sometimes, I mean, really, or at least, as you said, in a culture where women are so retiring, to at least be able to stand up and be heard a little bit, so. And tell me about, you said was it the Prime Minister of the Marshall Islands had water and coming into
It's coming into his yard.
because the Marshall
Yeah.
Islands are sinking, I just found this out. So now I have
With
another
climate
thing
change,
to keep me up at night.
it's coming up. And then he really advocated for that among the delegates at the Paris Climate Conference.
Oh.
So we use that kind of as a centerpiece in our Going Green show,
Okay.
which is what I wanted to tell you about
Right.
Jonah's role in that. Because Jonah not only scripted the front part of the show to deal with climate change, but then he opened up the back part of the show as a rally that the kids could then step up and repurpose songs that they loved.
Really?
And
That was
Jonah-
great.
Jonah helped them with that process.
Did they love it? They must have loved it.
Totally loved it. We
Yeah.
had actually a little cachet of songs, some old Irving Berlin show tunes
Really?
that we had rewritten in the past to be about ecology,
Right.
sustainability. And so I figured, why not do that with some modern music
Right.
that the kids are into. So there's a little bit of old school and some new school in
Right.
there.
Right. So did the kids? They sang along with modern music. No, they didn't sing along with Irving Berlin, or they
They
did both.
Both.
They did
They
both.
did both. Okay. Well, modern music, like hip hop music, it's very interpretive, and sampling is like very important. So I mean, it sounds like it'd be the perfect blend of things to do. I mean, it must have been really exciting and fun.
Exactly. Referencing culture is very a hip hop thing.
Right.
But then being able to use the songs that they like, communicating with their generation also was very awesome to see.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think, they're so different. Kids have such a different experience than we have. They've grown up in a totally different world, and you have to enter their world too. We can't, I mean, I'm a baby boomer, and I've been talking to a lot of millennials lately, but even people younger, their world is different than my world, and we have to speak their language, because you know what? Their world is the future world. Our world is, is the past. So with whatever texting and electronic communication and so on. So
I had to learn how to text message because my kids wouldn't answer phone, they wouldn't answer emails.
it's interesting
You know?
that we're communicating by writing these days. It's fascinating.
But what's great is now when we do scripts and we create scenes from improvisation, they text me the scene.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great. So then you can follow, it's
Boom,
perfect.
yeah, I just put it into a Word file and boom, we got a script.
They're so fast at it too.
They are, boom, boom, boom,
That's
just with
great.
their thumbs.
That's, yeah. So do you guys have a website?
Rehearseforlife.com.
Rehearseforlife.com. Know it. Learn it. See it. Watch it. I'm Marianne Sasaki. You're watching Aloha United We Stand. And if you'd like to join the conversation, please call us, 415-871-2474. I'll repeat the number. It's 415-871-2474. Come and ask us a question or make a comment. We'd be happy to hear from you. So, so tell me, what other things is the Women's Commission involved in? Are there any other things?
We're looking at some new women in ag issues.
Oh,
And I think part of the reason we're looking at that is because in my other job, we actually funded quite a few of those. And so they're looking at that because it's a non-traditional field for women.
right,
to work in.
absolutely.
Is
Yeah.
this like food sustainability?
It's partly food sustainability, but it's really putting women into leadership positions in agriculture. And
Wow, we need that.
And
Yeah, we need that.
We've
Yeah.
always done it, but we've been subordinate to
Right.
these groups of men farmers.
Well, they've organized. I do a lot of construction law, and I'm very pointed in my making the language of the contracts neutral, because we think of men in construction, right? Not women in
Yes.
construction. Agriculture is very much the same. It's this, physical field that has been associated with men, but they're great women farmers, and they're doing great things. So that's. So what kind of crops do they farm? Do they farm do they have llamas that they shear, or do they have, because I knew somebody who had a llama pack, and she would shear the wool and then spin it and knit it. Or do they have, or is it food? Is it?
It's all kinds of food. It's from the Wailea egg on the Big Island, and they raise palm. The hearts of palm.
Right,
Hearts of
sure.
palm, yeah.
And they're
Delicious in a salad.
Yes, they're great, and they are the biggest hearts of palm farmers in the United States. To Laotian farmers, and they're moving into the Kunia area, and you just wouldn't believe how much land they're actually farming, and their ability to produce just really, really high quality.
Well, wow, that's something I'll have to spread around the office, because that's kind of an interesting little fact, that we're the country's biggest producer of hearts of palm, and right here in Hawaii, right here on the Big Island. Yeah, because I love the agricultural spin of Hawaii. You get these farmers that are they're impassioned about what they're doing, and they're raising. I talked to this guy who was raising chervil, and he was like all about the chervil, and I was like, that's great. I mean, I like my job. I love my job, but I'm not. He could have talked all day about this one plant. So it's great to fuel people's passions, which is really the whole purpose of everything here, right? Is
Yes,
to fuel
it's-
people's passion, to become
Exactly.
a passion.
We even wrote a show called Passion.
Did you really?
Yeah, the kids just took off with that theme. Yeah.
Well, if you can't have passion when you're a youth, you enjoy it now, you guys. That's all I can say. It goes a little bit on the back burner a little older you get. But so what was Passion about?
It was that, we just put it out there. What is your passion? Can you put it into words? And they start to spin scenes. So many kids want to do music. They want to make films. They want to be engineers. They want to be scientists. So whatever their passion was, we asked them to start to generate scenes about them. But it helped us out, because that show followed a very tough show that we did called one of Walt's last shows.
Wasn't Romeo and Juliet?
It was on a 30.
Cliffhanger?
Cliffhanger.
Oh, what was that about?
Cliffhanger was about those moments in life where you're right at the brink.
Oh, yes.
And
We're all aware.
and you gotta bring yourself back.
Right.
But the metaphor was the silent movies.
Oh, okay, because
Yeah.
people were always hanging
Buster
off the.
Keaton,
You're right,
right?
but right, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Always hanging in you never know what was going to happen. You're like,
Yes, but whenever my partner would write material, very challenging stuff, and was laced with music, and silent movie era icons, and it was a little tough for the kids to relate to,
well, I guess that you don't have it's a little early for that kind of experience.
But it's an important life lesson, and
It's an
that's why it
important
was
life
in our,
lesson.
our repertoire.
Absolutely.
Shows like Passion, Going Green, and some of the other shows we do is a devised theater method that really focuses on listening. We listen to the kids. They have conversations. They improvise scenes. We give them a few parameters. They understand the basics of how to communicate themselves with their voice and their body, but getting those feelings out, which is where a bulk of the
That's so
information
important.
is.
It's so important. I mean, it's hard, but it's if you got to do it. You have to face those feelings and articulate those feelings. Otherwise, they're channeled into ways that are not good for us. I mean,
Yes.
this is good for us, a healthy way to, to channel the heightened emotions of adolescence. They really are. But Jonah, let me take a few minutes now just to talk up to you about your professional musical career. And so you're an MC.
Yes.
And do you have other?
You play with bentos, right?
Yes. So I guess it's history now. This is the third season of American Idol I was on. So this is back in 2003. But after being on the show, I went through a little self-loathing and hated singing. And
Oh, really?
Didn't want to sing anymore, just because of how I thought I was portrayed on the show. I just came home washing clothes, and I went more into rapping after that.
You became a rap champion, right?
Yeah, I was actually heavy into battle rapping.
Oh,
right before
I'm honored. I'm very impressed. Thank you. Wow, that's terrific and terrifically hard and terrifically has to be done on the spot, right?
On the spot, yes. That was one of my specialties.
So you must
I
have a
enjoy.
very agile mind.
It's pretty quick, bounces around, which helps in hosting also. But doing improv in T-shirt theater definitely kept that nimbleness also.
Well, it does. Improv does.
Yes.
It keeps you quick. I had a friend who did it, and it's. I could never. I don't know. I
Well,
don't
you're
think
doing
I
it right now.
Well, yes, but myself, I couldn't get into a character. It would be difficult. I don't know for me to get into a character.
I
think.
see.
But you could probably help me.
Other than yourself.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
yeah.
You know. So. All right. So we're coming toward the end of the show. So is there anything I haven't it covered that you guys want to talk about, or
Can I mention
Sure.
one thing?
Absolutely.
We do a reflective process because that helps to bring forward what's happening in the kids' minds. And
Is that like meditation? kind
no,
of
no,
thing?
the reflective process. In fact, we used to just do show after show after show. And then years ago, a couple of decades ago, a woman said, I want to give you some money to do a reflective practice. Have you ever done that?
Right.
And what is that?
What is that?
And what that is getting what's inside outside through writing and putting into words what's going on in your emotional
That's
body.
key. Yeah.
And at first, I didn't understand what the point of that was, because then once I started to gather that, oh my goodness, the kids aren't getting what, because they would say what was happening in their thinking process and what they were feeling.
Right.
And then I started to get it. It's a way for them to start to communicate what was happening with them, because this is a transformative process.
Right. Absolutely.
But if you don't name it as you're moving through it, sometimes it goes
oh yeah.
right
Yeah.
past.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So anchoring the work in reflective practice, now we write from that. We do a practice at the beginning of our session, every session. One good thing. Tell me one good thing that happened to you since I saw you last. And
That's great.
They tell the whole group, everybody applauds after each person. And at first, when we started this, some kids couldn't think of one good thing that had happened to them all week.
Yeah,
but now,
now they
can-
understand.
They have a whole list they
Right.
want to share.
So they're really living in the moment now and appreciating the smaller moments, I'm sure,
Yes.
which we have a tendency to just blow by, right?
Yes.
So, reflective practice definitely helps with living in the moment.
It's so key. It's so
I know.
key.
There are many. That's recommended in many organizations for many different types of, like post-traumatic stress syndrome,
Yes.
and it's a very therapeutic method of healing and learning about yourself.
Yes.
So it's that, yeah. And it takes a little effort to do, but once you get into the habit, I think it's almost like going to the gym, right? You don't want to not do it.
We just build it into the fabric, so
Right.
the kids don't even notice, and they text me, and so it's like a conversation. Because if you have 30 kids, it's hard to track what's happening, but when they reflect, that's a one-on-one.
That's
It's a
terrific.
conversation.
So I want to thank you all so much for coming today. And I've had never heard of the T-shirt theater, and now I'm dying to go and watch them operate and see what they do. So I'd like to thank George, Jonah, and Gail. Thank you. It's been wonderful. It's been a spectacular experience.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
doing the interview.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Very much.